Relax.
So I'd like to move into a vote from this board in determination of over allocations, which would be to vote to over allocate by 5% of our total budget, basically allowing us to fund every club currently as is. We still would need to go through and check to make sure that clubs haven't put ECS fees that aren't true and that kind of stuff, but I wanted to at least see what the board's kind of stance was on over allocations to start off with, to see if we needed to make any budget cuts or if we can just keep things as it is and cut what needs to be cut based on our budgetary statutes. Does anyone want discussion on this? Are you okay with moving into a vote?
Okay, I just have one quick question. So I'm not against over allocating of 5%, but any money that rolls over from orgs that we do not see yet, what will happen to that money? Just out of curiosity.
I think the money rolls into Sahas for the spring. So. But since it's all under the one big line item, we basically just, on the SGA's budgetary side, the funds would be taken from there. But Sahas would remain as is.
How much did we over allocate last semester?
I believe around the same amount.
Maybe less.
Just a little, yeah, I think a little bit less, because we made blanket cuts across the board. So I think our allocation wasn't as high as 5%, but past finance boards have always been 10%. They've always gotten money back, even when we do run out of money. At the end, numbers that go forward, the finance board pot's never actually fully spent because of how much rolls back. So we'll see if that's the same case here, but with 5% over allocation, I don't think it'll be put us too much. Whereas towards we go slightly over, but you know, clubs will still be able to get their money. That's what you're worried about.
So are we gonna go through like each club's event just to make sure like everything's alright with it?
Yeah, so you should have all been shared the spring on-campus budgets advisor sheet. We're gonna be going through on the cut section. Everything that's in white are clubs that or events that we have not looked at yet, since there was no issues with them prior. We're basically going through, make sure this is one, an event that we would fund. So it meets all the criteria. It's not just like, hey, we're all having dinner for ourselves and we're not letting anyone else in. And two, confirming that any club that's requested ECS fees, that's in white, actually has documentation that they met with Brit Spears to confirm those ECS fees. So for example, last Friday we looked at Jumbo Night for ASA because they had ECS fees, but Brit didn't have any documentation with them meeting with her for this semester, so we had to cut those fees. Simply because they put numbers in there, but they didn't actually have documentation to prove that. Any questions? All right. With that, I'd like to move into a vote. So all in favor of over allocating by 5% for the spring 2020 on-campus pot, please raise your hand now. And all opposed? All right, then. By unanimous vote, that motion carries. We will plan to over allocate by that. All right, let's start looking at events. So first one is going to be our AF Theater Company. That's FBVR 214. We're just going to be going straight down the list. So I would keep it up here. Go over to allocations. Oh wait, you're on copy of. Never mind. Let me open up that. This is AF Theater Company's performance. They have listed that they do have $178 in request for security. So, do they have a form with ECS on file?
I don't see it on the end.
It doesn't look like they uploaded anything
me see. They uploaded like costume prices. But that's it.
Do they have anything on file?
Just this, just that.
I was gonna say, oh, if I was gonna check the,
What do you mean, like,
They have not met with them.
yeah, not that with her. Alright, move to strike the $178.50 requested for security.
Second.
Are there any objections? Hearing no objections,
Is this
motion.
wait, what day is this on?
May 10th.
Yeah, May 10th.
Yeah, I don't even have that as a.
25
Okay.
percent.
It says it's in, it's point FA 306 is the minimum for the.
The recital falls
Yeah.
same.
The list
Um,
only goes till like.
Did we just had like last, I think it's last Tuesday for like sending something out about clubs? Meeting with them? Like a reminder, not a reminder, but like, or did we decide against that?
We decided against that.
Oh.
No second chances is what we're
Oh.
talking about. So yeah, hearing no objections, motion to pass general consent would be striking the, 178.50 from AFB Company's security. Alright, up next is Ancient Studies Council. They have 165, 166, 167, which is their Ancient Dungeons and Dragons, Scribe School, and ANCS Movie Night.
So 165, 166, 167.
Yeah. I see no issues with the request, just wanna make sure no one else does either. Anyone have any issues with those requests? Actually, would you guys like to just prioritize just the ECS fees and assume that all the other requests are good, or would you rather go through every single request, just to be sure?
So representing request.
Say again?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Elsa, then get that, Jessica.
Well, I was saying, like I saw that their budget includes merchandise and giveaways, but it's dice. Is that something that they need
Is that for
play
Dungeons and
in, or they
Dragons?
sort of
Yes.
give it? And then they're gonna give it to you?
So, I believe so. I know that you need dice to play the game, so if there's not gonna be attention on there, I think they might just be giving it away at the end, or it might be a prize to get personally, I don't mind either way, but if you guys would like to vote to strike, that's an option available. Justin?
I think we should be a little cautious with that.
For which event are you looking at?
Either one.
65, 66, or 67?
65.
So they put it in supplies,
Mm-hmm.
as like, I don't know.
We don't have a merchandise and giveaways item anymore, because we just simply wouldn't find anything that's there.
Dice sets will be distributed to all attendees for free. The amount was estimated by multiplying estimated dice set by estimated attendance.
But it says there's also an RSVP. I don't know if
But
that's
it's open to anybody who wants RSVP.
Where did it say that?
The dice sets,
Yeah.
under does your budget include merchandise? If that's yes, and then if yes.
I wonder if,
Are these like normal, like, what is it? Are these like? I don't know.
No, you're explaining the whole.
I don't know what the name is.
It's not like, it's different. It's, I mean, like, yeah, I don't know.
It's not like normal pricing.
It's in order to participate in the game, they need these dice. Right?
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of cool.
I mean, also just like, in terms of funding items, since we look at it as a one-time use, like even if they say they're gonna give it away, it's just like, just the nature of funding.
What do we do for the rosary? You said consider.
We just, yeah, I mean, that's what, if we have a one, like, time funding,
Yeah.
one-time funding, one-use item, another term.
One-time use.
Yeah,
Item.
if we have that precedent, we just assume that,
Mhm.
like, whatever happens with that.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should strike it, I just.
Yeah, and,
I say in this case because the primary purpose of the merchandise, I don't believe is to be given away, simply because I know when you play Dungeons and Dragons, and I know this because I'm a massive nerd, like, if you don't have those, you're not getting anywhere, you're just not playing the game. So, I believe that the primary purpose is that, might be whatever.
Do we know why we didn't fund them last semester? They said that they submitted this budget last semester to get partially funded.
I do not.
yeah, I read that too, maybe they listed the general line item, or, we had to look at the request.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the drive and check.
It's it. Why was it on?
Oh, I thought you were. And then because we viewed it as the general fund,
Yeah, they might
but
have.
it is not marked as the general fund, but because it's, I guess, it was solely towards just the students who were in the department.
I think they might have had enough advertising. But yeah, let me go ahead and pull up that information here.
Well, they are collaborating with the ancient studies
It's 'cause
company,
it's-
right?
It is,
I think from what Tori said last time, like, this, like, Ancient Studies Council is like, our council manager. That is the com.
Huh. Okay. Got it. So they're not collaborating with anybody, they're collaborating with themselves.
yeah, it's.
As for their Dungeons and Dragons, it just looks like we didn't find it, period. I don't have numbers in there. We didn't fund dice because they were listed under merchandise and giveaways, and what kind of request was just Papa John's funding, for pizza. I can't think of a reason why we did not fund it.
Because you'd all give that to the general fund.
They weren't listed as such, were they?
But that is what we.
Oh, that would make sense.
What it's gonna do?
I have no issues with funding.
Yeah, we would have.
Now that we have a set definition for general body meetings, even though it's not written legislation, like, I don't think this constitutes as a general body meeting. I want it fully funded. Any objections?
I would just highly encourage them to make use of printing quarter.
let's quickly go back to AF Theater Company. Since we're gonna be going through this list, do you guys mind voting on them as we go down? Because I just realized that the current method we're doing is we go down this list of cuts, and then we just go right back to the top to vote to approve all of them. So, AF Theater Company, this would be, FBL 149, correct? We just did 147, 148.
That's correct.
You're tracking this, Gabe?
Yes, ma'am.
That's
So, I'd like to introduce FBL 149-20, which is AF Theater Company's Spring Showcase Request event. For the total amount as listed in the sheet, which would, as listed in the cuts sheet right now. So yeah, the cut sheet indicates all the numbers that we've gotten rid of, so that would be like the total amounts, and we can switch those over to allocations later.
So $1,826.14.
Yep. What? Yeah. Supplies, decorations, competition. Alright. So is there a motion regarding FPL 149?
Do FGL 149.
All in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed, 6-4, 0 against. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the legislation track on here just so you can see.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah, look at all the work we've done, guys. So yeah, the general layout of how it's gonna look like, it's gonna say approval of AF Theater Company's Spring 2020 on-campus budget request, and then a comma and then the FDBR number, that way it can be distinguished. The legislation will look rather similar to how it looked last semester, but instead of wasting time typing up all of that when it's gonna go through the system, I figured we vote on it, we'll record it here with this record, and then basically go through here. So this will be what the numbers are like, and then during time after the meeting, I will go in and place all these numbers within the SurveyMonkey system. But I figure it wasn't worth it wasting your time to do all the typing of stuff. Once we approve all of this stuff, I'll run the rationale information by you, and if you approve that, then I can do all this on the back end, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so going on that, up next is going to be African Student Association Jumbo Night, which is FABR 241. We zeroed out all the ECS fees, and we cut their food and drink to match the total amount that we could. The total amount of findings, that's going to be $6,600. Is there a motion on the floor regarding FPL 150? Alright, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed?
For what?
ASA?
For Jumbo Night?
Yeah, for Jumbo Night. Alright, 5-4, 1 against, 1 abstaining, 2 non-present, motion carries. If you guys want discussion, you're free to move to discuss for any of these events at any point, just an FYI. Up next is American Red Cross. This would be an event that we completely zeroed out. So for events that we've completely zeroed out, I'm going to create legislation for that there. Do you guys mind if I put in vote records for that? Because what I've been doing is zeroing out all the stuff and then indicating that the vote failed on the finance board, since we wouldn't vote to approve anything. I think it'd be confusing if we voted to approve at $0, because that's what we did last semester. People were confused. So the way that I've been putting it in, which would be the ones like 140 to 144, would be in the SurveyMonkey system. I zero out all of the requests. So for allocated, put 0, and then for the vote totals, I put 0 for, 8 against. And then rationale would be that this event did not get funded. Does anyone have any objection with me doing that for all the events that got officially zeroed out? That way we only do like hands up votes for the ones that do get some form funded. You have this look on your face.
regular one.
Are there any objections to doing that, or? Alright. Sorry, it's a weird way of putting it in the system, but it makes it clear that like there is no funding, so that they understand what happened. I'd like to take a look at, so this would be American Red Cross, and this would be 203, which is their blood drive. Oh, they also didn't request anything. Oh wait, no, we have questions about that too. Never mind. I'm sorry, guys. Ancient Studies Council is going to be 151. So this would be the one that so this would be the movie night. Any objections to it? Or did we didn't take one night yet. Let's take one of those. Sorry, guys.
What number? FBL.
This is 166, which is ANCS movie night. Looks like they're just requesting $50 for food and drink.
Do we skip over 165?
165 is listed underneath and on the sheet, so I thought we'd go in sheet order of the sheet to make it easier. It's also the alphabetical order.
Do we know if, I know we're not funding like the rights or anything like that, but do we need to know that if it's quote unquote endorsed the grant, I guess?
I think in our past orders you should show, if I can make a note, in their budget request that since it's a movie night, they have to have the rights for whatever show or movie that they're playing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can put that as a stipulation in the invoice and that under the rationale for decision. Any objections or any problems with this request? Michael, go ahead.
Just for the record, can we go over the general body meeting official definition? We all accept it.
Of course. Mike, go ahead. Pull up the screen. Ryan, did you change the name of your document or no?
It should be in draft legislation as FBL 13 #1920 BDO.
Here we go. This is what we've defined as a GBM. It's not binding legislation yet. The current definition we're working on is a general body meeting is defined as a regular recurring assembly of a UMBC registered organization for the purposes of conducting business in accordance with the organization's constitution. General body meetings may be open to the general public, but are primarily geared towards members of the organization as defined by each organization's constitution. Did you use the general body meeting?
I mean, with the advertisement, not as robust as some other organizations, it makes me a little bit reluctant, but I'm not too sure. I'm just hesitant. So.
I feel like we had a very similar discussion for either another club or was it the same club where it was like 10 members and then it was only being advertised through like in-class announcements.
Oh, that
All
was the
of them.
econ economics council majors.
I think it was also this club describes. But yeah,
Did we end up deciding? I forgot what we.
we voted to consider funding, if I remember correctly. But I don't know if we made an official decision on whether or not we would fund it. Justin, go ahead.
So I know it's like it's very similar for like the other events, like their movie night as well as like their Dungeons and Dragons. Like it's like 10 people, a handful of people. I mean, they say there's gonna be advertising on like my UMBC and like through the ancient studies programs. I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to like give the clubs a benefit of the doubt on this one, like, and trust that they'll be reaching out to
smaller clubs, especially council of majors, they might not be setting their sights super high in terms of being like, oh yeah, we'll expect 50 foot of them, just because they probably don't have many people coming in the first place. So, but again, that's your guys' decision. Zane, go ahead.
Yeah, I also don't think that we should, I mean, we should always like encourage them and like, I mean, we do like require some aspect to like advertise if it's gonna be like an event. But also I don't think we should like try to, like just because there's 10 people versus an event that we fund that has like 300 people, I don't think there should really be like, I know like we haven't made that distinction, but I think we should just keep it in view of like, how it works, looking like an equitable amount of money in terms of like what they're trying to do. So even if it's just like a movement at scribe school, and if they are like advertising, I mean, being a student art, it's kind of hard to get people to come out when people are busy and whatnot, but I think as long as they're advertising and they're making an effort, then I don't see why we should not fund it.
If you want a rationale for decision, I can put something in there about requesting that they try and do that more to advertise. Maybe not in terms of competition, but just more attempts to get it out there. Is that something you guys would like me to do for this event?
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's not binding, it can't confirm or guarantee anything. But just, you know, if you want me to put that in their rationale for the email that we send out, I can do that. But also go ahead and adjust it.
I mean, I think that's like a good reminder for any club, but if they're like, for example, they're requesting pizza, with like in mind that they're expecting about 10 people, for probably, I mean, if they get a lot of the people, they're not gonna have enough money, like for things like food. It's not something, it's not like it's like AV costs that are like depend on attendance, so it's sort of like, I don't know how likely that is to happen.
That's a good point.
I mean, I think like pushing clubs to like try and like spread out, like get a little bit more people involved. Like it would definitely ease like our attention because like I could see like why like if my board say it seems like a GPM, it's like only 10 people, there's 4 people on the executive board. That's like 40% of like people going. So it's like I think encouraging them to try and get out the word more would like be helpful and like, you know, grow their club. Like part of like isn't that sort of like part of their purpose? Like to try and like reach out to the UMBC community. I just think like I don't think it would hurt for us to say like please try and like get some more people.
Alright, go ahead and Zane.
I understand how reaching out to UMBC undergrad would change whether it's a GPM or not.
Do you want to respond?
I mean, I kind of agree with that. I don't know. I just feel like the GVM business has been such a tricky thing, just in general. I mean, when we go back to the cooking club, I know we got UMBC, yeah, UMBC. We considered their event to cook later that evening to be an extension of the GVM. And I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to say this is a GPM, but looking through those lenses, it kind of becomes almost a tug of war about whether or not it's a GPM. You know, they're having just kind of a party after. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm trying not to be too critical of organizations and start micromanaging whether it's a GVM or not, but it's just become such a intense issue just because I want to make sure we're equitable and fair to all organizations, whether or not we're considering their event to be a GVM or not a GVM. So that was more of my concern.
Zane and then Justin.
I mean, I guess into that point, like, the council, like, this one, this is a council of mayors, like, there's no, because like, UMBC was different because it had like a free requirement, but, I mean, for this one, again, it's a council of majors department, so a lot of people who are gonna go or like in the club are studies majors, but again, I think maybe like a general kind of reminder that, hey, you know, adding more advertisement options when you're submitting your budget and actually doing them will increase your chance of getting funding. But I mean, in the context of this, I don't really see it as a GVM. And again, I think just because an event is smaller or because we don't think it's going to have as much outreach, I don't think we should consider not funding it for like those reasons. I think if it was like an actual general body meeting, then I don't think we should fund it, but we can't, I mean, they can't control, and we can't control who's gonna show up, so, I mean, as long as they're advertising, as long as they're trying to spread the word about it, I think. They have as right to the money as somebody that's hosting a, I don't know, something with all of them, but bringing people in there too, so.
Justin, then Michael.
So like, to answer Ryan's question, like how advertising, like I wouldn't make it non-GM. It's like, if you look at the definition, like events are primarily geared towards members of the organization. It's sort of like, it's hard for me to see how like 10 people are like interested in like Dungeons and Dragons, like are like already like members of the like club already. I would assume like it's geared towards these 10 members who probably do go to like the regular GMs. Like this event is like so much more for them than like the UMBC like undergrad population. But I'd also like to like suggest like what do that Fridays think about this issue. You guys have any thoughts? Like I can just ask.
I can do this okay. Yes, I'll bring it to you.
Sorry.
It's okay if you don't have anything. No.
I definitely agree about like how like the whole deciding whether or not there's like a tricky subject, but I do think that it would kind of be good to like decide for them if it's a general one, they can explicitly say if it was.
I think my issue is just how often would you see these ads go out? Because I know, like, I check, like, what's the events that are coming up this week, so I feel like the club is like purposely just putting it out for the entire student body to see, and like maybe they don't want to attract that attention, but then again, it also is a nitty-gritty aspect of deciding whether or not it's a general body. So.
Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of running off of Justin's and Sierra's idea. Like you indicated that you are not to throw shade or nothing, a big nerd. You like Dungeons and Dragons. I have many friends who actually play that game. I've never personally played it, but it might be something I might get into. But anyway, that's besides the point. The point being is there are a lot of people on campus who do actually play Dungeons and Dragons. And I think the ability of the organization to advertise this event to the general campus would do a lot to bring just notoriety to the organization. It would definitely bring people. I have a friend who's a comp sci major. He loves Dungeons and Dragons. He has Dungeons and Dragon parties at his house every Saturday. I think he would be easily someone who would take a couple of moments to come to their club meeting, just to or club event to just come and do the Dungeons and Dragons. And I think, you know, pushing that aspect of advertisement to go and reach out to people who are comp sci majors who may not be part of the Ancient Studies Council would definitely go a long ways for the organization to make it short and ensuring that it is an event. So that's more so where I'm coming from on the situation. I don't know if that changes anyone's mind. But
Any other discussion points? Justin, go ahead.
I mean, I just want to say like I'm in favor of funding them. I just think like we should be encouraging clubs to try and like reach out to the student body more, which is like the purpose of us funding events like these.
Any other discussion points? Alright, we're gonna move into two separate votes. The first vote is to whether or not this event should be considered a general body meeting. Should we vote that it is not, the secondary vote would be, do you wanna fund this event? So the first vote is gonna be option A, yes, it is a general body meeting. Option B, no, it is not a general body meeting. All in favor of option A, please raise your hands now. All in favor of option B, that it is not a general body meeting? Alright. So we determined that it is not a general body meeting. Let me reopen the legislation trackers. With that being said, is there a motion on the floor regarding FBL 151-1920? now? All opposed? Cheer voice. You realize that hand's behind Andy's laptop, right? Alright, 6-4, 0 against, 1 abstention, 2 absent. And this motion carries. Up next, we're gonna look at, Asian Studies Council Scribe School. I believe this is something that I remember looking at this either last semester or earlier this month. So Scribe School is 167 for the Asian Studies Council. I think they were doing something where they were teaching people, ancient languages. Alright, so this is the request for Scribe School. Does anyone have any issues with it? They're requesting $20 for supplies, $50 for food. So same standard as prior. They're requesting around 10 people. Any discussion points that people want to bring up?
I mean, it's the same concern as the last event, but in terms of it.
Everyone good? So. That's it.
I mean, I think in general, just kind of just was saying earlier, just reinforces for like when you're sending out the rationale and funding things, to just encourage people to make sure that what they put in their applications, they're going to advertise it, what sources they're going to use, like reinforce them that make sure they use those, and also look for other opportunities. But I mean, again, in general, I just think we shouldn't base an event just because it's like smaller. It seems like it's only going to reach a few amount of people. That kind of stuff.
Any other discussion points? Jasmine?
So this just came to mind, but like, I just want to get like reports, you know, like, if it's a club that's continuously having the same, like the same numbers. So if it's like this, they put an application for like 3 events and it's like 10 people each, it's like, we're not just funding the same 10 people, like one event each time. I just want to like what people's thoughts are on that, because like this just came to mind.
Brian, go ahead.
So are you concerned that it would kind of become a general body meeting structure, or requesting the same thing every day?
I mean, well, not general body meeting, but like, if you put an application for 3 events and it's like 10, 10, 10 for like the estimated attendance, it's like, it seems like these 10 people are just like getting funding for these 10 people. Like, would it be helpful if we just keep funding like multiple events of this that are at like low number of students, the same amount of money each time? Because then it's like, is there any effort to really grow your club?
Sure. Same.
I mean, just being in the perspective of like, I mean, I think most of us have been parts of organizations or have served on like executive boards before. I mean, I just think in general, it's like, it's difficult to get people out anyway, and so I think the people that you can reach, I think having these events is important. Because other than that, kind of what's being brought up is like a tiered system, which we don't have at UMBC, which I think we should kind of have, because I think it goes back to like how your organization reaches. Because if you're an organization that has like a really strong base on campus, because you're a cultural worker, because you're a major that has a lot of people on campus, I don't think that should really put you ahead of a club that maybe has lower interest. But you know, if they do advertising and do put stuff out there, and they're at least trying to reach, like, I mean, if they only get 10 people, then they get 10 people, and those 10 people are having a great time and a great experience. I don't think just because they're not able to bring out like, you know, 10 people the first event, maybe 25, and maybe 30. Like, I just don't think for some clubs that happen, but I think that, you know, if we're really concerned as a board, then, you know, we can partner, you know, I'd be happy to put something on advertisement, or like member retention or something like that. But I think overall, if we're not gonna provide resources, then I don't think that we can really be like trying to restrict what type of funding, or how that if we're gonna give them funding based on them just having events and like just regular people coming, like maybe the regular person is a like ancient studies major, but I just think in general it's up to the club about how they're reaching out to people, and if they're doing it, then we should follow them.
Yeah, I like to point that I've been part of a lot of small clubs too, and like even for those clubs and even for some of the bigger clubs, like it's difficult to get people to come out to events anyway. So it is just an estimated attendance number. But the thing I was going to bring up is if you really are worried that like it's just the same 10 people and that those 10 people are all members of the e-board and all the same club and they'll do that, they gave us the day of the event. We have auditing power. We can stop by to all 3 events and see if there really is just like a party for the members or if they really were hoping to try and get other people out there. That's what Scott did last year with Russian Club, and we learned a lot from that. So again, you have the power to go out to these events and be like, is this really what we decided to fund? And if it's not, and things are radically different, then that can be taken note of for the next board or even the next cycle to look at. Like, well, last time we looked at this event, it wasn't really geared towards what they said it was, so that's a genuine basis for you to deny funding next time. And clubs should be aware of that, that if they're posting events that aren't really their events, or like, kind of giving fake numbers, that they're at risk of not getting that event funded in the future. So that's still part of that remains if you do believe it is that big of an issue. But yeah, I'm more inclined to give the benefit of the doubt, especially for small works, just because it's difficult to get even 10 people out to sometimes these events. But with that being said, any other discussion points regarding this organization's event for Scribe School? All right, with that being said, I'd like to move to approve FPL 152-1920. All in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? 6-4, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 absent. Motion carries. Next is an event that we already looked at, which would be their Dungeons and Dragons night. So, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to move to approve FPL 153-1920, which is their Dungeons and Dragons nights for the Ancient Studies Council of Majors. All right. All in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? 6-4, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 absent. Up next is Anthropology Club. This is FBR 85. The first one we're going to be looking at is their Anthropology Day celebration. They're requesting $20 for diningware, $105 for food and drink, and $10 for common vision. They're expecting about 25 people to come on out. Any discussion points regarding this event right now? Holiday celebration happening February 20th. The event has happened before. They're getting Papa John's 25 on, 5 off. And they're partnering with SAP. SAP. They say Facebook event, Instagram, and credit cards for flyers. You guys want discussion, or are you okay with voting for this one? All right.
Courtney, do you know if they were approved last year?
For the finance board or?
No, for like recognizing. They said they were out, they were. But yeah, no, I just didn't know if because they could take use of the advertising.
Well, no, I go through the house, but I think it's like that's really more to market. The merchandise or the marketing fund for new clubs is to be like, hey, this is a new club coming out to our meetings, versus the funds up here, which are like, hey, come to this one event that we're hosting. So.
I know, but it could still just be noted that, rationality. Also, if you'd like to, utilize, because if they're doing an event, then we're also going to need
They're away.
I think they were good last year.
They were approved last year.
Last round, okay.
Who's the liaison for the anthropology club? Thank you so much for coming.
I mean, I'm just noting it because like, I think Shadal and I are gonna work on like a session to invite like newer orgs out to kind of do like a session with, but I just think in general. Because I think it's a resource that usually goes unutilized. And the purpose is for new organizations.
Oh, congratulations, Nitty, for a big winner for tonight. Good. I guess I'll try and compile a list of all of the our forms within 2 years, and then we can have emails sent out to them indicating that this fund is available for them to use. With that being said, are there any objections for Anthropology Club's event? With that being said, I'd like to move to approve FBL 154-1920, which is Anthropology Club's Anthropology Day celebration.
Second.
Alright, are there any extensions? Alright, all in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed, 6 for, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 absent, the motion carries. Up next is 243, which is also Anthropology Club. This is their Careers in Anthropology panel discussion. They're requesting $10 anywhere and $50 in food and drink. They're estimating around 20 people to attend.
On the legislation tracker, you should change one of the numbers for Asian Studies Council to 165.
153 should be changed from 166 to 165. Oh, you can just write 11 and 12. 11 dash 12, or 11 dash 12. Yeah, we can pull that in and change it to the text. You're going to shift over, so
There's not enough point.
there, if not, then yeah, there's not little.
You want that here?
Oh, I'm not gonna take your seat.
No, you're good, literally. I can sit right here.
Sit here. Miguel.
I don't mind.
Is everyone taking a look at the careers in anthropology panel discussion?
Can we make a note to just like, I don't know, I guess maybe to include in the application for future reference, I guess, that like, if it's an on-campus event, that the location of the event has to be like a place on campus, not just
Did they just say on campus?
cities.
For location of event, they just put UMBC.
So we just wanna make sure that we put like a more specific, I guess, location.
Yeah, I think the job that leadership will be taking in that deployment cycle is to like go through, like do a mock application and go through and screenshot and do like arrows and like this is what you should put in here, this is what you should put here, all that kind of stuff to make another, or see what we can do to modify the template. Maybe also increase treasurer training requirements as well, but we have to go over that with stuff. Are there any discussion points regarding anthropology clubs, careers in anthropology panel discussion? Alright, with that being said, I'd like to move to approve FBL 155-1920.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? 6 for, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 absent, motion carries. Final Anthropology Club event is going to be final SAHAP study day. Looks like they're requesting $10 in diningware and $30 in food and drink for 20 people again. This would be FBBR 257. How least have some caffeine and a snack while they study. Are there any discussion points regarding this club's request?
What is the half again? Like,
It's a great question.
It's probably snack.
Excuse
I
me.
couldn't tell you.
So it's
Did that
policy
wake
and
you
for
up?
College meeting health administration policy.
oh, okay.
Something happening. You didn't think that was funny?
You didn't think it was funny? That's all right, we can just, we're fine. Alright, so are there any discussion points regarding this event? Alright, with no discussion points, move to approve FPL 156-1920.
Second, sorry. Second.
Anyone second? All in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed, 6 for, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 not present, the motion carries. Up next is ASCOM, which is the Asian Study Council of Majors. This is FPDR 102. This is for their Kiowani Film Festival. They are requesting $250 in common vision materials, and that is it.
Sorry, sorry, you just said, common vision materials?
Yeah, just $250 for common vision. I believe that they're part of this event with the Japanese club and then the Asian Studies like department. I can go ahead.
Did we give this club money through Sahas last semester for this event? They wanted to hold this event because they said it was a tragedy that just recently happened.
Yeah, didn't Anime Society, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Anime Society.
That was Anime Society.
But they were but they said they were partnering with these.
So have you already funded this?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
So,
Let's scroll back up.
Or like, is anyone who can access that?
yeah, let me go ahead and check. So real quick, I think the one festival that they were doing happened during this semester,
already
which is why they
happened,
needed
yeah.
Sahas for it. So let me go ahead and check that. Do you remember who submitted that request?
I'm pretty sure it was Anna's, like, are you asking for a person?
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can find it in our
Paul,
source.
Paul, I didn't remember what it was.
I'm just gonna scroll through until I can find it. Here we go. Yeah, so this was the UMBC County Film Festival. The start date for the event that we approved was November 22nd, and it was gonna go from 3 to 5. And their location for that is Firehouse 215. So, while they may be celebrating the same film studio, these are 2 separate events. For those of you, oh wait, no, I can pull it up on the big page if you want. We approved it. It was request number 13. It was the house. So you want me to pull it up on here, or are you guys good? I'm good. All right. Does anyone have any objections to, or does anyone have any discussion points for the ASCOM's film festival event? Move to approve FPL 157-1920.
Second.
Alright, would anyone like to register any abstentions? Alright, all in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? 5 for, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 3 not present, the motion carries. Up next is Astronomy Club. They have a spring guest speaker. This is FPBR 271, and they're requesting $10 in dining ware and $90 in food and drink for 30 people. Any discussion points regarding this event? Mike?
It's stress, you know, that's why my hair's falling out, you know, just, no, I'm just, you know, don't think me no attention.
Just making sure, make sure that everyone's okay before we vote. So, no discussion points. I'd like to move to approve FPL 158-1920, Astronomy Club's event.
Second.
Alright, would anyone like to register any abstentions? Alright, all in favor, please vote.
Well, I wasn't here, so.
Astronomy Club, FPR 271, shake the vote that. Sure. Based on finance board proper rules, abstentions will not be given in terms of not knowing what's going on. I can only grant a legitimate abstention in the situation where you have either a close personal tie with a member of the e-board, or you are a member of the e-board, or you'll be benefiting from the event in some way or another. Any conflicts of interest, but.
Yeah.
Alright. All in favor of approving FPL 158-1920, please raise your hand now. All opposed? 6 for, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 not present, the motion carries. Up next is Astronomy Club's end of the semester movie screening. Looks like they're requesting the same thing, $10 in dining ware, $90 in food and drink, for a total of 30 people showing up. It says 272. Justin, go ahead.
So, I'm pretty sure we had a long discussion on this one, I believe. And we're moving on whether or not this sort of like a GDM, just because to celebrate another successful semester, the Astronomy Club hosts a movie night on the last meeting of the semester to allow students to wind down their last before finals.
I don't know if we talked about this one. You can finish your thought and that's all right.
I mean, I know there's like a good amount of discussion on like some of their events before this, so we may vote to consider it, but I think this was like one of the issues raised by it.
Yeah, I think it was one of the ones raised by Tori. Ilse.
I think the one we had a lot of discussion about was like the mid-semester debate, but we ended up, I don't think we decided to fund them. But I think for the end of the semester movie screening, like they were planning on doing it maybe last semester, and when she came in and talked to us, it was essentially like, yeah, it's a movie, but it's like open to everybody. So I don't know if we would consider it a GDM.
I mean, general body meetings are open to everyone too, right?
But I remember she was talking about like advertising, especially.
Yeah. Michael and Justin.
Right, so I've had a conflict with many of the previous clubs we voted on. I just feel some of them are GDMs and some of them I just can't find the words to prove it. For the astronomy club, I feel like there's a little bit more concrete evidence that it's a possible GBM because if you go to the Finance Board Budget Request Review Form, where it has the organization description, they tell you that they hold meetings every Thursday night from at 9 p.m. in room 401 in the physics building. All their events are happening in the time frame of 9 o'clock, and they're all happening in physics 401, which is the normal time frame for their general body meetings. So using that justification, I would argue that these events are all still general body meetings, just extended to the fact that there are, well, I mean, I guess general body meetings are open to the general public too, so does anything really change on the situation?
My personal opinion, I do think that this one is a general body meeting, just because in the state, they said like, come out for the last meeting of our year. So they basically, even though they might have not clicked it was a general body meeting, they kind of gave it away in their description. So personally, I wouldn't fund, but again, that's your guys' decision. For the speaker, it's kind of similar, but they didn't explicitly say it, which is why I was more hesitant as to whether or not to classify that. If you'd like, you want to move to reconsider that vote?
No, because I feel like at the current moment, the definition of general body meeting is imperfect at its heart. And I think it's going to take a lot of time for the board to come up with a more concrete way to distinguish between general body meetings and actual events, because currently I feel like there are a lot of events that are general body meetings, but I can't find the actual justification to list them as general body meetings because I don't think there's a concrete enough definition. So I don't think it would be fair, considering all the orgs we just went through, to go and start considering general body meetings unless it's under some type of different criteria. So I think your argument that because it said last meeting of the semester, I think that is a good justification outside of, reconsidering just a strong club's requests. So.
All right. Any other discussion points regarding the astronomy club's end of the semester movie screening? All right. That being said, is there a motion? So I'm going to go ahead and move to approve FBL 159-1920.
Wait, we need a motion to put it to strike.
No one seconds.
No, if no one seconds it, it dies.
So just.
Second.
No, if you move to approve it and you second it, you're stating your intent to vote for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You
vote.
second?
Yeah, second.
Okay.
All right. All in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? 2-4, 4 against, 1 abstaining, 2 absent. Motion fails. So the question that was, Zane, go ahead.
Okay, so if we're gonna do that for astronomy club, then how do we justify the ancient studies council? I'm confused.
So in this situation, I think the rationale being used and the rationale requested basically was indicating that in their description, they listed for our last meeting of the semester, we wanted to show a movie. I think members of the board that voted no took that rationale as to mean that this was indeed a general body meeting because they said in the description that it was during their general body meeting. They were just going to show a movie. They're requesting a movie for that, which is why they voted no for that. Am I incorrect or have I made any false assumptions? I think the other events, they might have been listed as such, but they didn't directly state as opposed to this one. And that's what Michael was saying, that Michael's not going to go through, like he doesn't, even though he believes that a lot of the other events were general body meetings, he doesn't have enough concrete proof of justification to link to our current definition to claim so. But for this one, there was enough to claim it. Does that answer your question, or do you still have concerns? Because other members of the board might have better answers than I do.
I mean, I guess if anybody else wants to speak on that, but I mean, I was looking at this, I didn't see where it said that, but
Any key takeaways?
On the last meeting.
I mean, I guess because, I mean, again, being part of clubs, I think that sometimes, like, if you're having an event for a club that's like smaller or something like that, I think you would put something like an event over like a general body meeting time, like instead of going to general body meeting, having an event. But I guess if the rationale is that it just looks like a general body meeting, then I guess that's the decision of the board. Because, yeah, I mean, I think, because especially with astronomy club and like last semester, I think if we keep telling them to do something a certain way and then we're going to vote a different way, I think it just kind of creates that friction that we had with some clubs last semester. As we already had some previous clubs noted that I think Ancient Council Studies was like, yeah, we submitted everything that was required and we did everything the correct way and we're not given any funding. So that's kind of all I'm concerned about is creating precedents and then telling people to do one thing and then when they do it, they're told that, oh, we did it wrong because we decided it. So, my only concern with that.
Nikki, then Michael.
I get that they put in the application that, meetings, I guess, are at a certain time, but I guess going off of the definition that we're working with, like having a regularly occurring assembly, wouldn't that also, like, for, Ancient Studies Council, like, their events were also, like, at the same time, all of them. So, it's just, like, we don't ask, orgs when their general body meetings are, or, like, ask them to state that, so it's just not, like, something that I would really used to go by determining, because that's not something that we have like a set thing of like, oh, this is when each club's general body meeting. So,
Alright, so, Michael, same thing, Ryan.
Yeah, I understand that point of view of the situation. However, I do feel the situation is unique. I was the person who brought forth that their request to be reconsidered last semester through SIMAS. Part of the rationale behind that was the fact that they were using actual Common Vision to advertise their event, which they aren't doing in this instance, which to me still kind of presents the whole GBM idea. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm not using the rationale that it sounds like a GBM. It was more stated that they were having a kind of final meeting of the semester, which indicates that this meeting is only geared towards members of the organization. So using that rationale, I was for denying the club funding because through that it sounded like a GBM. But currently, I don't feel that the current definition of GBM is sufficient enough. I think we're definitely going to have to go back and revise it. And I do feel that it may be necessary that we start asking clubs. I mean, that's something for the board to decide. But I do think it would be very beneficial for the board if we were to start able as the board to see when general body meetings were actually held, because it becomes a kind of issue of conflict and perspective, whether it's a GBM or not. Whereas if we had concrete times, we could rather just rule it GBM or event. So that's a discussion for another time. I don't want to eat up the board's time with arguing whether it's GBMs or not. I just think that this case is special due to the fact that it stated that it was the last meeting of the semester, whereas if it was an event, it was just an event for the semester versus a meeting for the club at the end of the semester. So,
Same, Ryan, Justin.
Thank you.
You have your hand up, then you put it down, and Ryan. So if you have something to say, if not.
Okay, I mean, just talk with, I think in general, I think that's like arbitrary to decide that, first of all, that's extremely micromanaging to be like, oh, okay, here, have 200 plus orgs, give us all your general body meeting times, and then decide, oh, if an event's over that time, that's a general body meeting, even when it's an event. And again, I think we're trying to like compare things, because if, like, I don't think we would see an issue if it's like, oh, there's an event like happening like over the weekend, you know, it's gonna draw out so many people. I don't really know how we would decide like how to give funding just because something's happening over the normal general body meeting time. I know there's plenty of organizations that, you know, just instead of a general body meeting that week, they'll be like, hey, we're having this event during this time, and it's an event on my UMBC and things and whatnot. So, I mean, I think it's a conversation for another time, not to like waste time on this, but I mean, I think that's extremely micromanaging and arbitrary in nature to decide funds.
One point I'd like to mention before we go off to Ryan is that in their methods of advertising, they didn't even list my UMBC. Just to, on that point. But
Does the event exist? Yes.
Then never mind. I was checking out the list of advertising sections. My bad then. Ryan, go ahead.
You guys brought up that it's kind of frustrating to have requesting as much time and then change the way it's requested. I think the form of an application is very different from the substance of an application. And we've already voted, we have statutes that say GBMs are not to be funded. So if something falls under the substance of being GBM, we should deny it every single time. Also, is it possible to move to vote on whether things are moved, like movies are specifically GBMs or like speaker events, just generally? Is that anything?
It's something this board can do, but I think that there's a slippery slope to take in terms of events are different. So we might have a situation where, like, yeah, the speaker's going to be in that guest time, but I know that one of the clubs that I'm part of, the NMAP, has guest speakers, and they pick a different time from the GBM time to have them come in and talk and do more formal thing. So I'm hesitant to make a blanket call for all of them since we don't know the situation and circumstances.
They could, well, I'm not saying like just vote on all of them generally. I was just asking like just to get a feel if the board itself considers speakers to be events generally or movies to be events generally.
We can hold a straw poll on that right now. They'd like to get the board's feelings on that. So I'll go ahead and yield the floor to you for the options on that poll.
Okay. So how do you, what's the structure?
Just like what do you want to ask?
Okay, the first option will be to consider movies generally to be events. And the second will be that movies are not events. So, all in favor of having movies to be generally events? What are you talking about?
You do.
Okay.
Well, this is a straw poll, so this is not non-binding.
It's not binding. I just have conflicting feelings. I think it could go either way. So, I mean, 50-50.
Cool. Good with that?
Justin, go ahead.
So I just want to say, like, with the whole movies and events thing, like, generally, yeah, you could say they're events. I know last semester we funded Philadelphia for some movie nights, but, like, they also have, like, a clear distinction that they're trying to, like, reach out to people and, like, get them to come to those movie nights. Like, I think they said if everyone brings, like, a friend or two, then we'll have, like, 45 people. I don't know how they came up with that. But when I'm looking at, like, I think what makes me uncomfortable funding this to organizations, like when you look at the descriptions, like it's on top of what Michael said about like meeting at 9 p.m. in room 401, like the Easy Observatory, but on holidays we meet and discuss recent events and watch documentaries and movies about various aspects of space. It's like this is not something that's particularly unusual for this organization. So to call it an event, it's like, but if they regularly watch documentaries and movies, it's nothing to me telling me like, this is what sticks out. We're trying to get the general UMBC like undergraduate buy-in. This is more just like business as usual.
All right. Nick, you have anything else?
They said on cloud days. I mean, I don't know what they do on cloud days, but that's what they put in their description.
It's going over a topic. It's just going over reviewing a specific topic on astronomy. Like I think last meeting was stars. There's another meeting about black holes. Another meeting about like another galaxy. There's a lot of different space stuff.
I'm gonna go with Nikki's account. No offense, but I mean, first-hand experience points out. It also says the same. Try and limit it to new points at this point.
I was just gonna say that the reason that I'm like I don't wanna say more critical of this organization than like the other like ancient studies, is because this is an organization that's very well aware of our, we don't fund general body meetings because we've been in discussion with them, and so, and I don't want to, I'm not accusing them of anything, or I don't wanna suggest that that's the mindset they're going into, but I think they're very well aware that if they check off something that's general body meeting, that it wasn't gonna get funded. So.
Same thing, Michael.
Well, I guess it wasn't checked off.
It was.
It was just trying to say that like they know that if they check that off as general body, they would get funded.
Yeah.
So there's the possibility that they knew it was general body but chose not to check it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting in a circular discussion here too. I mean, first of all, I don't think we should be in like the business of like dictating like what kind of like content or what like. I mean, obviously the thing that classifies as an event is that it's open to the public, and that they're going to advertise it. And I think we're getting into a discussion of like, oh, you know, if you're having a movie night and you're opening it and you're advertising it, but it's every general body meeting time, oops, sorry, then you're not going to qualify for funding because it's every general body meeting time, which, I mean, I just don't agree with that, and I think in terms of like the budgeting process and like what time we're at, I think if we want to talk about this, we should kind of like either make a decision about how we're going to proceed with this, and just end the debate, because I think we need to also move on to the other requester, and so I'll also move for previous question.
There's a motion for previous question. Are there all in favor?
Are you
People
asking?
know what they're voting on.
So Zane is voting to end debate right now on this issue. So all in favor of ending debate, please raise your hand now. All opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to the next organization. Up next is, up next is the Biology Council of Majors Bioethics debate. They're requesting ECS fees, 160 for audio visual and 30 for room rental. Well, first of all, room rental is wrong, so I'm going to assume that that meant with Rick, but could you confirm that, Candace? Thank you so much.
This is for.
Oh, sorry, this is Biocom, this is request number 37. This is for their bioethics debate.
When is it?
I don't know what it is.
It's April 28th. 1 second.
They're requesting $30 for a room rental fee, which is already making things they haven't met with Rick because there's only 2 rooms that require room rental fee and they're both $25.
They're
Do
good.
you have the
They are good.
invoice?
They have, yeah, they're good, right? Did they upload an invoice?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Wait.
never mind.
Yeah, wait, is the date on it the date that they meet? Wait, it says the date's November 12th, 2019.
Is that the day you're looking at it, like today? Maybe the date updated,
On the PDF? On the invoice?
that's today.
Case one, case one.
Yeah.
Just go.
Okay, whatever, but it says Sky.
Skylight.
It's $25,
There you go.
that's why.
And what are they asking for? October 7th.
So
Seems
Skylight
November 12th.
room and then Skylight Basics.
Oh wait, reservation.
Good. I got it.
Scroll back up.
Oh, the invoice is, wait, so that is the date, but that's, what is it?
Bioethics debate, huh?
Yeah, that would be the, bioethics debate.
Are they having them today?
What's the time frame for that supposed to be?
I think there are people.
So it's, no, it's, I mean, it says April 28th.
Well, she has them in here,
It says
it's good.
7 and 9, so it's at the same time, then.
She has them on her events as of 10/18, on the 28th in Common Sky Bioethics debate. And I wonder if it was a repeated event. Can you go back to the,
Oh, they did say that before.
I wonder if they just repeated the event. Because she has them in her spreadsheet for April 28th.
So,
Let me, I would say.
but how, I was
Just
looking
go
at
talk about
October
that.
7th for this.
They said it's happened multiple times.
He may have just sent them one invoice and said this is the same for every single time.
If anyone's curious, I don't want to quickly step over this guideline.
I mean, it's happening right now,
CV.
but no, it's happening right now,
I mean,
but like,
For
it
this
is,
semester.
oh yeah, definitely. It says it's happening right now.
I'm so, but how did they go on October 7th, 2019 and get an invoice for something in November?
What are you talking about?
Because this invoice was filed on October 7th, 2019, on the date.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it may just be a repeating event. Like they may have put the room to a thing.
Wait, it was reserved for today. That's what the invoice is for.
They came to Brit on October to request for this event in November.
Okay. I
What's-
believe you.
What's still confusing you?
Because there are some trying for events that
Sounds great.
Michael, go ahead.
Wait, so I'm trying to exercise how confused I am in the situation
Thank
still.
you.
So you're saying that the event is actually physically happening right now?
But it's happening multiple times.
Okay.
So when you do an event reservation, you can say, I want to reserve a space for multiple times, the same thing. I want to just copy the event 5 times. And you can say, I want it on November 12th, December 13th, January 2nd, and April 28th.
So,
And then it would create an invoice. Go ahead, what's your question?
I mean, it's, mine is still the same question. Like, I get that they're repeating
Yeah.
events. Wait, so who paid for this event today?
Doesn't matter, you're not, I
So
think they
we-
just uploaded the wrong invoice with the wrong date. But what I'm telling you is the documentation that Britt has provided, the documentation that Britt has provided says they have met with her and that they are having it in Commons and that,
So the club got 2 invoices, they
there's some,
uploaded the
who
wrong
knows what
one.
they got?
Okay.
They got several invoices for this event, because they're hosting on several dates. They uploaded this one, that was wrong, they shouldn't have done that. But Candace has all the forms that Britt signed off on, basically saying, here are all of the events that are happening. So Candace says that she has the right one. They just didn't upload the right one. Again, if anyone wants to go check, room's over there. Michael.
so then my question would be, can we check the
This
correct
is for,
amounts?
yes, you can check the correct amounts, the correct amount is $77.
Okay, because they have audio visual at 160, a room rental fee at 30. So,
They have, in the one that Britt gave us, Commons, Skylight,
Should be 25.
25, and then LCD for $52.
So they have room rental for 30, so that's incorrect. And then audio visual
they
is,
add all that.
it was 160. What was the 52?
Well, that's,
yeah, but
well,
the $30,
that's
the,
apparently not the right form, so.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Alright, okay. So this is completely, Dean, get rid of this. Don't, alright.
Yeah.
So this is a situation similar to last year where we said you could upload your old, or last semester, we were like, you can upload UC subjects that you think it's gonna cost, and then the board will only fund as much as is actually requested by Britt. Remember we had Britt here in the meetings, and we asked her what were the ACS fees, and we changed the number that they requested to match that. Like clubs requested like 300 for audio visual, we asked Britt how much the AV really was, and she said, oh, it's only 180, so we only funded 180.
so we're not letting that happen this semester, right? Because the other clubs also submitted
But
their.
did they meet with Britt?
They didn't.
This club has met with Britt.
And Britt gave us numbers. Those numbers that Britt gave us are different from these numbers. So I'd like to move to only fund for the numbers that Britt gave us.
Second.
Alright, any objections?
No.
Alright,
No, you get that.
I don't know what's so confused. I don't know how to help.
So the Common Sky,
So-
room rental fee is $25. That is, can you scroll down a little bit on the screen? No.
What? Regardless of whatever the document.
So I don't know, $30 is a made up number, I don't know where that's from.
No.
Well, it's $25. And then they have a Common Skylight LCD for $52. So in your advisor sheet,
So basically, yeah, so you can only request up to $25 of a rental. If they requested 30, we're gonna cut 5. You can, they only requested up to $51 of ECS for audiovisual. They put 160 here, we're going to ignore that, we're gonna give them what Britt says.
Okay. I can feel better.
I just wanna make sure that everyone's clear on why we're doing what we're doing. Because
Okay.
all of you look incredibly confused, and I don't know how to help explain the situation.
And this the other items, that's not ECS, right?
Nope, it's just these two.
There's planning on giving mugs for speakers, and I would do not.
So, the other items, I wonder, is it pertaining to small gifts that they're? planning
Yeah,
on
because they
giving
put that
to
mug, there's a picture of that mug thing, it was a very nice mug, but it's like,
Yeah.
we can't,
And they're only getting 3 because
it's not something that we can find, it's a nice mug.
Are they asking for $40 for other items?
because well, it's $9 for each mug, and 3. Find that.
And then where's the rest of the money going?
Maybe the shipping, because I don't know.
Shipping and
Okay.
perhaps.
Yeah.
So on the advisory sheet for bioethics debate, audiovisual is 52, room rental is 25,
I thought it was 51 for Octavia.
52.
52. I'm mistaken.
No, you're fine. For 77.
Total is 77.
And then there's other items for 40. They have dining wear 10 and food and drink 100. Does that match up with what's in the request?
Yes.
Okay.
And they have 20 for competition.
Oh, but that's not on.
They didn't put that.
Oh wait, yes it is. It is on here. It is on here. Sorry, I didn't tab it. So
Total is 360.
now, yeah, now the total is 247 because we corrected the comments or the comments. Now I guess the next question up for debate, right, was your mugs
Yeah.
or $40. Like, what is that $40 for? Is there documentation for all of it?
Yeah, so there doesn't seem to be any explanation about the other items. So, I mean, the first part, I would assume it's just the mugs, and the other 13, I can't put a title to, so. Perhaps.
Alright then, considering that the $30 might probably be much of an annual question, this is custom company, and making them custom. I'd like to move to strike other items from this request. Alright, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, most of this pass with general consent, so the advisor sheet can strike the $40 from the other items. Alright, so you made some strikes, but are there any other changes to this budget request that anyone would like to make at this time? Alright, with that being said, I'd like to move to approve FBL 160-1920.
Second.
Yeah, it's everything.
Alright, are there any abstentions? Alright, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? 6 for, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 absent, the motion carries. Up next is BSU ball. If I remember correctly, they did not meet with Britt, so we won't be funding any of their ECS, but this is FBVR 328. The total amount for funding would be $1,000 for contracts, $500 for decorations, $200 for dining wear, and $2,000 for food and drink. We're expecting 250 people. Oh, and $200 for competition. So I believe this is one that we already cut ECS fees from because they failed to meet with Britt.
Is that what this yellow color means?
I believe so, yes. I believe that the yellow color was we made cuts to an event, or we made cuts either to food and drink
Okay.
or to audiovisual, or it's something that we made cuts to, but we didn't completely zero out. The red is meant to be completely zeroed out. The white is events that we didn't even look at.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone have any discussion points or issues with BSU's event? All right. I'd like. Oh, go ahead. Yes.
I just want to make a note of it, like the way they estimation for the attendance, like expected attendance based on social media following activity and general body movement attendance. I just think like there should be no like, I don't think that's a sufficient way to tell if 250 people are actually coming to your event.
Well, if it's the first time holding the event, they will have no way of knowing. So I don't think it's our job to determine whether or not their attendance numbers are proper or not, if that makes sense. I mean, if they were outrageous for the determination, like it's supposed to be like a small event and they're expecting like 500 people, then maybe a differential, but I don't think it's on us to determine whether or not their attendance numbers are legitimate, because if we create a mechanism to determine whether or not they're legitimate, then that opens up a whole can of worms in terms of us determining how people are going to each event. And again, this is something I'd recommend auditing power for. We can go, and if there's like significantly less people, we make a note of that, and the next time they say we're requesting 250, when last year only 50 showed up, then we can say, hey, this differs.
Right, but if we have to use attendance to determine certain costs, like one club just basically use that to like enhance how much money they get at future events.
Yeah, we've discussed this for, over the summer too, and it's on the principle that this is like part, like you're talking, this is like based on the honor system, and us like going and checking to see if they did meet what they said.
So with the auditing power, if we go to an event and they said they were going to have 250 people, but say like only 10 or 25 people show up, then we can make note of that. And there are budgetary sections for penalties that can be imposed upon clubs in this situation. If we see this and the event comes up next year or for the next budget cycle or something like that, and opening made where funding can be severely limited. So we could then say, well, you said 250 would show up for the past year, you haven't had 250 people show up, therefore we're going to limit the funding for this club. And the board's justified in doing that.
Right, so where will this be kept? Because this is on the assumption that one of us returns next year for next year.
This will be placed in the end of year transition document, but I can make a note of it on this separate Google document right now. Basically though, typically if you go to quote unquote audit an event, you should be taking notes during that event and then uploading those notes. And those notes will be kept secured on the drive for people to see. But the only person who's been going to audit events for the past year or so has been Scott. So, and he would mark in your members those numbers. But yeah, if you want to go to an event, just note the amount of attendance, note the stuff, and upload it to the drive, and I'll make sure that there's a mechanism in place for the next board to be aware of that going forward. With that being said, Black has a K. Sorry. Move to approve FBL 161-1920.
Second.
Are there any abstentions? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? 6-4, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 not present. Motion carries. Up next is everyone's favorite, Catholic Retrievers. This is their Rosary Day. This is request number 179. They are requesting $50 in supplies, and that is it. I think they're asking 40 people to attend, not 5.
Yeah, it's switched. I didn't know on it. Jared told me, emailed me before October 18th saying that like the numbers should be switched for all Catholic Retriever events.
Are there any discussion points regarding this club and their request for this event?
179.
Yep, let's do that.
I believe we talked about this in a previous meeting, about like, I guess, the whole thing of like, I guess the supplies funding is would be for rosaries, and then they're, I guess, letting their teaching how to use them, and then you can take them with you. And we were discussing how, like, can we do that, like, is it a giveaway, but then also, like, I remember I think Zane brought up the thing of it, of
Yeah, it's one-time use policy, so when we're funding an item, that's not considered equipment, we just assume that it's exhausted, like it's exhausted once, and then, but technically whatever happens to that item is whatever. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna say like, oh, use your rosaries once, not just trash can at the food, but like, you know,
I think also people consider, like, the point of the event, like, they need the groceries so they can perform the event, which is teach people how to use one. And then what happens to the extra ones afterwards aren't as important. But I don't think the primary purpose of the rosaries is to give away, I think it's to be used for teaching. Are there any discussion points regarding this request? Alright, move to approve FPL 162-1920. Alright, would anyone like to register an abstention? Alright, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed, 6-4, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 not present, motion carries. Up next is another Catholic Retrievers event. This is their Fat Tuesday feast. This is 180. The next following requests are all Catholic Retrievers. It's 179, 180, 181. Just make these for you guys.
Can we make a note, or I guess, the guys section from them that like they need to put the events on my UMBC?
Yes.
I
Could
guess
you
that's me.
make that an action item in minutes? Thanks so much. Alright, are there any problems with this request, or any discussion points with this request? Alright, move to approve FPL 163-1920. Too fast?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, sorry, I withdraw my motion. Everyone good? Alright, everyone good? Yep. Alright, move to approve FPL 163-1920. Alright, all in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? You in favor?
yeah, sorry.
Alright, 6-4, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 not present, motion carries. Up next is, again, Catholic Retrievers. This event is their Easter dinner. That's request 181. Give you guys a minute to look at that. Just give us a thumbs up when you're good.
Wasn't there a request from them about cross?
Yeah, that was their Catholic Mass event. We voted to zero that out. So, should not fall under any of these three. Everyone good? Anyone need more time? Yes.
So I have a question about this event versus the iftar events. So the iftar events are about the same number of students, and they were all zeroed out, and they are for religious celebration. But this event was not zeroed out. It is also for religious celebration. So the Muslim Student Association put in 192, 194, 195, 196, 197, 199, 200, 201, 205, 206, 220, 222, 223, put in a lot.
Yeah, there are 20, there's 20.
Yes, so granted, there are 20 of them, but they are, in essence, a meal to celebrate or commemorate a religious event.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
So my question is, how is the Easter dinner different than these events?
I have a response in the, I'll, correct me if
I
I'm
don't
wrong.
necessarily think they are different.
I don't think we denied the other requests based on the fact that those were religious event. I think it was the time frame that it wasn't being advertised that way that night. And again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think I remember that it was, because it was such a late time, it didn't seem to have any advertising, it didn't seem like an event that was being marketed to the general UMBC community, which is why it was denied. But again, I could be wrong on that. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going off the fact that I believe we just denied to the blanket denial due to the fact we considered them to be GBMs. But again, no.
No,
It's
MSA doesn't meet every night.
well, I mean, not,
It's not every night, but it fit within the definition of GBM that we came up with, and I think at that point,
Right,
we were getting technical.
so my
Issue
issue.
then Justin, but first Michael.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
So, right, I see your point there, and I'm inclined to agree. Like I said, the GBM thing, I'm struggling like crazy trying to find a way to be very fair in this, because everything we're saying is GBMs. I could honestly make the argument, because I feel the same way. I mean, if we denied Muslim Student Association on the fact that it was a GBM, I would argue the same thing for the Catholic Student Association, Catholic Retrievers. And I honestly am having a hard time being able to distinguish whether or not it should. So I don't know if this maybe needs to be a reissue that needs to be an issue revisited, because GBM is not really, we're not coming up with a good standard in my opinion. We're being very biased in my opinion. So
I agree, but yeah, and then Justin.
When we talk about the Muslim Student Association for breaking the fast, we specifically mentioned that we had them put it as 20 events because some of they're not necessarily using the same vendor for having food and stuff, so putting all of those vendors into one form would be it wouldn't really work out with just how the form is. So we had asked them to do that, but I made the point. I remember I made the point during the meeting that it is not a GBM, and that the fact that there are 20 applications should not be an indication that it is a GBM, because that is something that I told them to do. Otherwise, they would have just done it as one application.
Yeah, I think we told them to consider it as one event that's happening over 20 days as opposed to 20 events that are happening one day after another. Justin. Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You sound like you were done.
Yeah, that's true. But I just remembered something. I guess something that we did that we mentioned was also considering, if not funding all 20, to at least consider funding a portion of the 20 days. But that's just something that we did bring up. Okay.
Justin.
So I wasn't here for a discussion Friday. I'm sure I'm not seeing necessarily the biggest differences. If advertisement is a concern, I'm looking at 222, and it says it's on my UMBC, but they use Facebook, Instagram. And when I go back to look at Catholic Retrievers, they're also using Facebook, Instagram. Theirs isn't up on my UMBC, and the reason is not yet. But yeah. So I think for the Ramadan events, they are I mean, you could say that it might be targeting maybe specifically the Muslim student population, but I don't think they would be closed off, and neither I think so Catholic Retrievers. So I think I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of maybe funding some of them, because maybe not all of them, but maybe some.
Alright. Michael.
So, I agree with Justin and Nadia. I do feel that maybe some of them need to be funded. I'm just more, I'm more curious about the way the board proceeds from here on about considerations when it comes to organizations of GBMs. And I'm not saying that this is a GBM because honestly, I don't feel it is a GBM the same way I don't feel like the Catholic Retrievers is a GBM. But the issue here is I don't know how to phrase it in such a way that it doesn't impact all of our other GBM decisions. So,
okay. Ilsa and Justin.
So yeah, we did discuss last Tuesday about why it wouldn't be a GBM, and I think by the end of that discussion, we were all convinced that it wasn't, but it was the question of how much it's being advertised and how much money. My question would be is if you are asking, if you're saying that you wouldn't mind funding partially, like some of the events, I'm not understanding what the rationale would be for only funding some as opposed to not all. Is it because it's $300 for 20 events and like $6,000, or because again, like the fact that there are 20 separate events is just simply a technical thing that like Nithya told on because of the vendor situation. So what would your rationale be for like funding 10 of those 20 days, or 5 or 50%? Because if it's like total cost $6,000, I mean there are organizations that are asking for that much money for their cultural events and things like that.
I'm going to go ahead and deem this conversation necessary to the completion of this, so I'd like to move to table the Catholic Retrievers discussion at this time.
Are we only taking the discussion for this event or also the previously voted on?
The previous one's been voted on. So, I'd like to move to table discussion on Catholic Retrievers to open up discussion on the Muslim Student Association's events, as I believe that discussion on that is prevalent to the determination of whether or not this event will be funded. However, I would like this just procedural-wise to make sure that we're discussing this at this time. So, move to table Catholic Retrievers discussion.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? All right, and I'd like to move to open discussion on the Muslim Student Association's events. Right, go ahead.
I just have a question. If we decide collectively that the decisions for the Catholic Retrievers are not in line with our reasoning as a whole, we can motion to consider that at least, right?
We could.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Alright, so the question that Ilse had still stands, and I believe Justin, you were next in that discussion line.
Yeah, so I think like the whole question, like we seem to all be agreed that like this is beyond like the questions of like what makes these GDMs, because like an Easter dinner is not happening like regularly or currently type thing. For the iftar, so that the thing is like it's impractical, like funding 20 nights, like I think that's like a little bit excessive. Like it seems to be like the same event with the same like it's like everything's just the same, it's just 20 different times. I mean, I would be like, even if we were to just fund one, I would think that's okay.
Just to address that point, the only reason why it's in there 20 times is because Nithya and I told them to do that because they wanted to have varieties. They wanted different vendors. There's no way to have different vendors for food all under the same form. So I'd like us to get away from the idea that it's 20 separate events and focus on the idea that it's one event happening over the span of 20 days and consider the event as such. But Zayn and
Well, I also thinking about it that way is like, the reason that it's done that is because it's like a religious sense, so that's why it's 20 like nights. I mean, I think in that context, it's just the way the event is running, and I don't think we should limit funding just because that's the way the event is set up, because it has the religious significance of it. It's done every single night, so I don't think that should really be used as a reason because I mean, like you said, based on that it's one single event, but also that it's there because of the religious significance. So.
also, and then Michael.
Yeah, I would just second Zane's point. I mean, if Easter was an event that was like just the span of the celebration was a month, then maybe they would have an Easter dinner every single day. And also Ramadan is an entire month, so they could and this year the entirety of the month will be happening during the school year. So they could have actually requested for the entire month, but I think they are taking into consideration that, okay, like, we have certain students, on campus and they need help for like food for the 5 days during the week. And again, like with the only funding one, I just, at that point, if we're going to have a rationale for not funding at all because, oh, there is like the same 20 people are benefiting, or whatever that rationale is, I would actually then prefer it to be completely blocked out because I don't think it makes sense to say, oh, we're only going to fund 1 day. I don't, like, how do you get that number? Is it just like, oh, we're gonna give them something so they'll be happy that we didn't zero them out completely? And like the back to the, I think one of the points that Liam brought up the last time we had this discussion was that there's a concern that, okay, if they're breaking the fast on a certain night, and of course they're going to be hungry, so they're gonna want to eat that food all to themselves, but it is being advertised, and if someone were to walk into the door, I don't think that they would turn them away, and that's just also not in our jurisdiction to determine, because there's no evidence suggesting that that's what would be done. So they are advertising it, they are following through the guidelines, and if we're gonna have it, again, like the 20 days things also just still stands. If we look at it as one event that a religious organization is putting forth and asking for $6,000 in totality, we should deem it as such, and I don't, partially funding just doesn't make sense to me right now.
Michael,
Right, so at this point, I feel trying to limit the days or limit the events that cultural orgs or any org for that matter request food-wise is a little bit redundant, but I think would be the better situation for you is to fully fund all 20 days, and if at the end we come over our budget, we go back and reconsider possibly making a cut to all food across the board for every single org. I think that would be much more fair than trying to limit an org by the number of events they're requesting, or maybe a max amount of money per an event versus. But the only other question is there any issue with the $33 per, well, because there are 20 different events, that it's all beneath the $33 per head, correct?
Yeah, they're estimating around 30 people coming to each one at $300 per food for each event. Yeah, checks out. Brian, go ahead. I'm gonna try this forward real quick.
Okay. I think either way we're gonna have to reconsider one of those we made, either the Catholic computers or the 20 events. But I think we should just sum all the costs for the Ramadan feast and just consider it as one event and fund it fully at the total cost per head.
Thoughts regarding that?
So for 6,000 totality.
Yeah, we're just considering it one event anyways. So instead of just funding 20 events, because like what's going to stop any other club that's being cut down to $33 a head per events from splitting their events into 20 separate requests, even if they're on the same day with different dates?
Because we would consider that.
Right. So why would we consider it now?
I mean, I think I understand your point, and that's valid because if a cultural org wants to like throw like a dance or something like that, they could technically split it up, but the dance would occur on one day, and I think the difference of, like with this is that these are like feasts every single day. I get why that's confusing because if you consider it in one event, then you start thinking the $33 per mindset. So the one event, the mindset of thinking of all of this as one event is not. It's just to get. It's so we don't start thinking GBM and like freaking out about that. But they are happening on different days, and there is nothing about the same 20 people or same 30 people being in every single one of these feasts. From what I know about like last year and how they did have iftars they did break the fast most nights during the school year. It was like people were making food, it was like potluck sort of thing, and sometimes some people make it, sometimes like other people don't. So every day is like a different variety of people benefiting from the event.
So my apologies on just remembering this, but we do have a precedent. I was thinking about other like reasons why we'd have funding for an event that goes over multiple days, and at first I was thinking around with like theater clubs. We have a precedent set from last semester where theater clubs have like a certain amount of time. So they'll say we're having our show for 3 days, and they'll give their estimated attendance for 1 day. And the last semester, this board voted to consider that attendance times how many days, because we did that for MTC, I believe. We were looking at their request, and they were over $30 per head. They requested about $50, or they said they had 50 people coming up, and we called them to ask, and they said that they estimated that was 50 people per day. So as a board, we voted to increase that attendance number to 100 because it was assumed that those would either be different people or even people coming to see the show twice, but that wasn't our determination to make. But since that was occurring over multiple days, we took that attendance number and multiplied it by that. So I think even in this situation, if it was all under one event, we would have told them to increase that attendance number as well. So yeah, we do have press on that. Sorry for just remembering that. I'm jerking out on that, but yeah, that's the situation regarding that. Other thoughts regarding MSA? Should we? Oh, so go ahead.
I was just gonna move to reconsider the Ramadan events at full funding.
All right, there's a motion to reconsider Ramadan events. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? All right, the motion carries. That brings our total amount of funding requests from $99,000 to approximately $105,000. So we are currently $11,000 over, minus the small cuts that we've made along the way. But that's something that's a good thing, because I think there are other clubs that we're going to be cutting from going further down. With that being said, I'd like to reopen discussion on Catholic Retrievers FABR 181, which is the Easter dinner. Mike, go ahead.
I see their event to be just like the Muslim Student Association, so I see no issue for the
All right. All in favor of, move to approve FPL 164-1920.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand now. All opposed? All right, 6-4, 0 against. 1 abstention, not present. Motion carries. This puts us in a bad situation. That's okay. Well, so now that we're voting on all of them, because now that we've voted to reconsider one, we're now $11,000 over. So it'd just be, if we were to make any blanket cuts, we have to go through all the stuff.
I think you're okay. I think you're okay.
If we get to that point, we still have cuts that have been made on a blanket level. We can talk about that at the end, and then mass vote on a situation.
I'm just worried, okay?
Cynthia doesn't believe me either.
What?
I believe you.
She was not yesterday.
I
I know she did. I saw her. And Brenda's like,
That's fine.
Brenda's like, we're fine.
So I'll make sure that everyone's okay with that.
I just thought that she was the one who worked on the budget, so it's not gonna be okay.
I know, I'm kidding.
But then she's like, you're talking to me.
All right. All right, up next is CSA, Chinese Student Association. This is their Lunar New Year Gala. They are requesting $1,300 in contracts, $50 in decorations, $2,000 including drink, and $200 in accommodation materials. They're estimating around 300 people to attend. This is a question that I actually had for you guys. So this is something that Tori brought up last time. Wait, no, we voted on it. Scratch that. Yeah, so this is this request, Chinese Student Association. So Justin and Zan, just to let you know what happened regarding this event last meeting, Tori indicated that there were some organizations that had met with Grit after the deadline, and that information was in Grit's folder. So like there is a quote for CSA in Brit's folder, it's just they didn't do it the wrong time, so this board still voted to not consider their ECS fees in that request. But just giving you guys a heads up on that. So are there any discussion points or questions regarding Chinese Student Association?
So, okay, so we'll still like just like not fund ECS, but everything else is like.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Just Tori had indicated that she found that Chinese Student Association had met with Brit just after that October 18th deadline. So she wanted to know if we wanted to reconsider I think it was like 2 clubs or 3 clubs that had their now ECS forms in. But the board voted that it just simply wasn't fair to reconsider them since we were able to do the other clubs. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's what happened last meeting regardless. Yeah. Are there any discussion points regarding CSAs then? All right. Move to approve FPL 165-1920. Would anyone like to register an abstention at this time? All right. All in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? 6-4, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 2 not present. The motion carries. Up next is the Kleptomaniacs 2020 Spring Concert. They do have ECS fees, $378 audiovisual. This is request number 88, by the way. So, could someone check to see if there's an invoice on that?
Is this, when is it?
It says it's their Spring 2020.
So the invoice is on-campus budget expenditure form from previous years.
May
So
3rd?
I don't think that's
I have something in here for $770.
So this event is May 3rd.
460 plus 50 plus 25.
So it says
It's
that,
not
yeah, it says 460 plus 50 plus 25. Their attached documentation shows their budget expenditure. So that's good. The event said May 3rd, correct?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Kleptomaniacs.
There? And she says that's there.
For 770?
Doesn't say for what.
I think that is the add-ups there. That'll scroll back up a little bit.
No. But, I mean, I wouldn't, that's fine then. Where did they say it is?
That might be.
Did they say
It's
what
an
it
ITE 10
Two?
something.
ITE
Yeah.
102?
Yeah.
From 4 to 6?
It says 6 to 8.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, if you add the contracts in, then the price comes pretty close to that
Mm.
770.
How is the contract?
250, so I think it'll be 780.
Okay.
So,
Zane, go ahead.
Okay, so I know when they came in for the fall, there was this question, but, so for this contract, it says invoice date, July 21st, 2019. So, cause I know they had talked about like trying to get funds to like pay for a contract they were left with last time. But I don't know why this would be, seems a little far in advance for an event for,
Could be an invoice from the previous.
just a
event.
reuse one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to show that that's like the flat fee of for a concert for 4 hours with costs, I guess.
I mean, I can leave a message with SAP stating that they won't use the funds allocated to try and pay off their own debt, if that's what you're worried about.
Well, yeah, no, I was just questioning whether that was, I mean, I guess if it's an invoice for a future contract, that's fine, but I just know that when they came in last year, they had asked about the finance board would consider paying off a contract that was from the previous semester. We said, no, because we don't fund things that were previous.
I don't think that's what they're doing here. But Michael, go ahead.
did we confirm that they got their 75, 75 non-UMBC, 25 UMBC.
We did not.
You said they did not.
Oh, so even at max, even if they were, so it wouldn't matter. So kleptomaniacs, yeah, with their total that they requested, which is what, at least what I have listed on the spring on-campus budget sheet is 370 in audiovisual, 250 in contracts, and 150 in combination materials, which leads to a total of $770. So even if they were funding at 25 UMBC undergraduate students, they would still be fine because their max funding would be 825.
Well, wait, so give me your numbers again, because for audio visual, on our sheet, we had 460. They had security at 50, and room rental fee at 25.
This is from the spring on-campus budget sheet, so when we exported all the data.
It says that both of these forms of documentation were approved by a finance board member at the October 14th budget workshop. I guess not included in quotes, it's included in asterisks. To be sufficient documentation as when these materials will be finalized.
That might have been something that Scott put on.
Yeah, because
Yeah, but I don't know,
Scott put the
did
budget
anyone go to that budget workshop?
That particular workshop?
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
went to
Also
some.
don't know if they would have considered someone from the TST as a finance board member, even though they're not.
But they don't know the difference.
Yeah, so, I don't know.
Also-
But they were told apparently that, according to this, they were told that it was,
I don't know what
So it looks like
The budget.
according to the sheet that I have, the original request in there did list AV as 460, room rental as 25, security as 50. But in the cuts sheet, those are listed as different, which leads me to believe that Tori might have been able to find Britt's numbers and adjusted them as such.
I can text her on the app.
Yeah, because you're asking about that.
Wait, see how many answers she has.
I'm gonna go ahead and check the.
Can you see the history on the sheet in terms of,
Yeah, I'm opening up Friday's history right now. Yeah, Friday, Tori made those changes to the kleptomaniacs concert. So yeah, looks like she cut security and cut the room rental fee and lowered AV to 370. But you said that Bridge sheet said 770.
Yeah.
So that would make sense, because then with the updated ECS fee on the cuts page, ECS plus contracts plus common vision equals 770 exactly.
There you go.
Alright. That being said, move to approve FPL 166-1920. Alright, would anyone like to register an abstention? Alright, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? 5 for, 0 against, 1 abstaining, 3 not present. The motion carries.
before we go into our next one, can we take a break? And then, because it doesn't look like we will be out at our original scheduled time, so.
Yeah.
You will not.
Nope.
Probably be here for.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and call a 10-minute recess. Please reconvene at 8:05.
Should I be placing that order now?
I'll go ahead and place it.
depending on how long we like speak and debate, 'cause